What if the dark side had its own chosen one prophecy? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The holocron speaks of two chosen ones, not one, two, born of shadow, raised in fire. The air of darkness shall bring true balance. Darth Maul stares at the ancient Sith artifact, crackling with red energy in the tombs of Korriban. His hands tremble. This changes everything. The Jedi prophecy everyone knows. It's incomplete. Worse than incomplete. It's only half the truth. Where the light has its champion, so too shall the darkness have its own. The Shadow's heir will emerge when the galaxy needs them most, created by the dark side itself to counter the light's chosen one. Two destinies, two prophecies, one collision course that will reshape the entire galaxy. And here's the terrifying part. Both chosen ones already exist. Maul's discovery in these ancient tombs will set everything in motion. The Jedi don't know. The Republic doesn't know. But Darth Sidious is about to learn that his careful plans for galactic domination just became infinitely more complicated. Because you can't control a prophecy you didn't know existed. You can't manipulate chosen ones who were never supposed to meet. And you definitely can't predict what happens when light and darkness stand face to face and realize they're two halves of the same whole. The ancient tombs of Korriban had been silent for millennia, but Darth Maul's footsteps echo through the Valley of the Dark Lords as he descends deeper into the ruins. His master's words echo in his mind. Find the holocron. Prove yourself worthy. The Force grows heavier with each step, oppressive and ancient, like a weight pressing down on his chest. Something is calling to him, pulling him forward into depths where even the bravest Sith feared to tread. The walls around him are carved with scenes of ancient battles, Sith lords commanding armies, entire civilizations burning under their power. Maul traces his fingers along the inscriptions, feeling the residual dark energy that still clings to the stone after millennia. His master chose him for this mission specifically, not because Maul is the strongest or the wisest, but because he is hungry. Hungry for validation, for purpose, for proof that he is more than just a weapon in Sidious's hand. The holocron represents all of that and more. As he ventures deeper, the temperature drops. His breath fogs in front of him, despite the desert heat above. The Force here is twisted, corrupted by centuries of dark side rituals and the deaths of countless Sith aspirants who came seeking power and found only dust. Maul navigates by instinct, letting the Force guide him past traps that would kill a lesser being. Pressure plates that trigger ancient blaster turrets, floors that collapse into bottomless pits, doorways sealed by Force barriers that burn the skin of anyone who touches them without the proper technique to dispel them. He passes the remains of other Seekers, skeletons in rusted armor, hands still outstretched toward treasures they never reached. Maul feels no pity for them, only contempt. They were weak, and weakness deserves no sympathy in the galaxy he knows. The strong survive. The strong claim their prizes. The strong shape reality to their will. Everything else is just noise, just obstacles to be overcome or crushed underfoot. In a chamber untouched for millennia, Maul finally finds it. A pyramidal holocron suspended in the air by invisible threads of Force energy, crackling with dark power that makes the air itself shimmer. Red light pulses from its core like a dying star, each beat synchronized with Maul's own heart. The chamber walls are covered in Sith script, prophecies and warnings written in languages dead before the Old Republic even existed. Maul can't read most of them, but he doesn't need to. The holocron is calling to him. its voice a whisper in the back of his mind, promising secrets, promising power, promising understanding of mysteries that have been buried for too long. When his hand touches the surface, the holocron explodes with crimson light. The energy slams into Maul with physical force, driving him to his knees as visions flood his mind. He sees flashes of battles that never were, of Sith Lords standing triumphant over galaxies, of a darkness so complete that even stars cannot pierce it. A spectral figure materializes before him, an ancient Sith Lord whose name has been lost to time, whose face is hidden behind a mask of corroded metal. The projection speaks in a language dead for centuries, but the Force translates its meaning directly into Maul's mind, bypassing the need for words entirely. Born of shadow, raised in fire, the heir of darkness shall bring true balance, not by destroying the Sith, but by remaking the Force itself. Where the light has its champion, so too shall the darkness have its own. The Shadow's heir will emerge when the galaxy needs them most, created by the dark side itself to counter the light's chosen one. Through them, the true nature of the Force shall be revealed. Light and dark are not enemies but lovers, forever intertwined, forever dancing. One cannot exist without the other. One will not triumph over the other. Balance is not victory. Balance is harmony. Balance is accepting that both must exist, both must thrive, both must push against each other for all eternity. The vision intensifies, showing Maul glimpses of what is to come. He sees a child in the desert, burning with light so bright it makes Maul's eyes water. He sees a being of pure shadow, born from darkness itself, with eyes that hold no malice but infinite understanding. He sees the two of them standing together on a world consumed by fire. Their hands joined, their power merged into something that has never existed before. And he sees the galaxy trembling at their feet, not in fear but in awe, as reality itself bends to accommodate this new understanding of the Force. Maul's eyes widen as the holocron's light fades. His hands tremble as he carefully lifts the ancient device, cradling it like the precious thing it is. This changes everything. Every plan his master has made, every scheme they've prepared for decades, all of it must be reconsidered in light of this revelation. If the dark side has its own chosen one, if there is a Shadow's heir waiting to emerge, then the Jedi's prophecy is incomplete. Worse than incomplete, it's misleading. And if the Jedi don't know about this, if they've built their entire understanding of the future on half a prophecy, then they're about to be blindsided by something they can't possibly comprehend. He immediately contacts his master, urgency bleeding through every word, despite his attempts to maintain composure. Sidious listens in silence as Maul recounts the prophecy, describing every detail of the vision, every word the ancient Sith spoke. The silence that follows stretches for what feels like an eternity. Maul can almost feel his master's mind, working through the implications, calculating probabilities, adjusting plans that have been in motion for longer than Maul has been alive. When Sidious finally speaks, his response is measured and cold, revealing nothing of what he truly feels. Bring the holocron to me. Tell no one what you have discovered. Not Dooku, not our agents, no one. This knowledge is too dangerous to spread. Come immediately. Maul obeys, but as his ship lifts off from Korriban, as the barren world falls away beneath him and the stars stretch into hyperspace, he can't shake the feeling that something has fundamentally shifted. The Sith have always operated in shadow, always planned in secret, always worked toward the day when they could reveal themselves and claim their rightful place as rulers of the galaxy. But this prophecy speaks of something older, something that predates even the rule of two, something that suggests the Sith themselves might not fully understand the dark side they claim to serve. And that thought terrifies Maul more than any Jedi ever could. On Coruscant, Palpatine studies the holocron for days that stretch into weeks. He dismisses the Senate on various pretexts, claims illness, claims pressing matters that require his full attention. In truth, he cannot tear himself away from the ancient device. His fingers trace the Sith script etched into its surface as he absorbs every fragment of information, every hint, every clue about what this prophecy truly means. He performs rituals learned from texts even more ancient than the holocron, trying to pierce the veil of the future and see what is coming. The visions he receives are fragmented and unclear, but certain elements repeat. A child of extraordinary power, a being born of darkness, two destinies intertwined, balance achieved not through victory but through unity. The prophecy is real. More than real, it's inevitable. The Force itself seems to be confirming what the holocron revealed. The Shadow's heir is not merely powerful, not merely talented. They are supposed to be created by the dark side itself, born from pure dark energy rather than flesh and blood, a perfect mirror to the Jedi's chosen one. Palpatine feels both excitement and unease coursing through him in equal measure. Could this prophecy be about him? Is he the Shadow's heir, the one born of darkness who will reshape the galaxy? Or is there another out there, someone who could challenge his carefully laid plans, someone who could threaten everything he's worked toward for decades? He performs an experiment. In a hidden laboratory deep beneath the Senate building, he attempts to create the prophesied one through Sith alchemy. He uses techniques from the holocron, combines them with his own extensive knowledge of the dark side, pours his power into the ritual until sweat beads on his forehead and his hands shake from the strain. The dark side energy coalesces, begins to take form, begins to shape itself into something that might, just might, become what the prophecy describes. For a moment, Palpatine feels triumph surging through him. If he can create the Shadow's heir, if he can control them from birth, then both prophecies will serve his purposes. The Jedi's chosen one and the dark side's champion, both dancing on his strings. But then the energy collapses. The form dissipates like smoke in wind, and Palpatine staggers back, feeling the backlash of the failed ritual like a physical blow. The dark side rejects his efforts. It refuses to be shaped this way, refuses to allow its champion to be artificially created by his hand. The message is clear, resonating through the Force like a bell toll. The Shadow's heir cannot be made. They must already exist. Somewhere in the galaxy, the dark side has already birthed its chosen one, and Palpatine must find them before the Jedi do, before anyone else does, before they even understand what they are. His search begins in earnest. He sends agents to every dark side nexus in the galaxy, to forgotten Sith worlds where the barriers between life and death grow thin. Korriban, Moraband, Dromund Kaas, Ziost, Malachor. Places where the dark side pools like stagnant water, where reality bends under the weight of accumulated suffering and power. He dispatches archaeological teams disguised as corporate surveys, has them dig into ruins that have been sealed for millennia. He monitors Force-sensitive children across the galaxy, looking for any sign of unusual power, any hint of dark side connection that might indicate something more than ordinary talent. Meanwhile, the events on Naboo proceed as planned. The blockade, the invasion, the Queen fleeing her planet with 2 Jedi protectors. Palpatine plays his role perfectly. the concerned senator fighting for his people while secretly orchestrating their suffering. But now he operates with dual purpose. He needs the Clone Wars to destroy the Jedi. Yes, that plan remains unchanged. But he also needs to find this Shadow's heir. If they exist, if they're real, they could be the ultimate weapon, or they could be the ultimate threat. And Palpatine has not survived this long by leaving such things to chance. Qui-Gon Jinn still discovers Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine, still recognizes the boy's extraordinary power, still believes him to be the chosen one of prophecy. The Jedi Council tests the child and finds his midichlorian count higher than even Master Yoda's. They sense his potential, but also sense danger, darkness swirling around him like a cloak. The boy is too old, too attached, too full of fear and anger. Training him could be disastrous. But Qui-Gon insists, and when the Jedi Master dies at Darth Maul's hand on Naboo, his final words to Obi-Wan are an order to train the boy, to fulfill the prophecy. The battle in the Theed Generator Complex goes as it did in the original timeline, except for one crucial difference. When Obi-Wan cuts Maul in half and the Zabrak falls down the shaft, his hatred keeps him alive. The dark side clings to him like armor, refusing to let him die, feeding on his rage and his need for revenge. He survives the fall, survives the hours waiting at the bottom of that pit, his lower half gone, but his will unbroken. When Sidious retrieves him later, after the celebrations have ended and the Jedi have moved on, he finds his apprentice still clinging to consciousness through sheer spite. Reconstructed with cybernetic legs and driven half-mad by pain and humiliation, Maul becomes something new. Not quite the weapon he was, but not quite broken either. Something in between, something dangerous in ways Sidious didn't intend. The experience changes Maul, makes him question, makes him think beyond his training. If he could survive being cut in half, survive through hatred alone, what else might the dark side be capable of? What other truths has his master kept from him? The dark prophecy begins to obsess him in ways Sidious notices, but does not yet understand. Maul starts asking questions about balance, about destiny, about whether the Sith truly understand the dark side they claim to master. Years pass with agonizing slowness for Palpatine. Anakin grows under Obi-Wan's instruction, talented but troubled, powerful but impatient. The Council watches him with suspicion, even as they acknowledge his abilities. Every report Obi-Wan files includes warnings about Anakin's attachment issues, his fear of loss, his tendency to let emotion guide his actions. The Council reads these reports and sees danger. Palpatine reads them and sees opportunity. This boy could be molded, shaped, turned to serve. But there's still no sign of the Shadow's heir, and that absence gnaws at Palpatine like a wound that won't heal. Then finally, the breakthrough comes. A cult of dark side worshippers on Korriban, primitive and violent but strangely dedicated, sends word through back channels to a minor Sith artifact dealer. They speak of a presence in the tombs, something that has lived there for years, something that feeds on the residual dark energy that permeates the valley. The dealer, knowing there's profit in such information, sells it to 3 different buyers. One of those buyers is an agent working for Palpatine. Within hours, Sidious is on a shuttle to Korriban, leaving Dooku to handle the political machinations on Coruscant. This is too important to delegate. If the Shadow's heir truly exists, Palpatine must be the one to find them, must be the one to make first contact, must be the one to shape what happens next. He travels alone to Korriban, wrapped in the Force to hide his presence from any who might be watching. The planet welcomes him like a lover, welcoming her beloved home. The dark side here recognizes him, acknowledges him, makes way for his passage. He walks through tombs where he once studied as a young man, where he first learned to truly embrace the darkness. But he's not here for nostalgia. He's here for the prophecy made flesh. In the deepest tomb, where even other Darksiders fear to tread, Palpatine finally finds them. Nix emerges from the shadows like a living piece of darkness given form. Their features are sharp and angular, sculpted as if the Force itself couldn't quite decide what shape to give them. Neither clearly male nor female, neither young nor old, as if age and gender are concepts that don't quite apply to what they are. Their skin is pale as moonlight, their hair black as void, and their eyes burn with an inner fire that shifts between red and purple depending on the angle. They wear tattered robes scavenged from dead Sith Lords, pieces of armor that don't quite match, boots that have walked through centuries of dust. When they move, reality seems to ripple around them, as if the universe itself isn't quite sure how to accommodate their existence. Palpatine stops at the threshold of the tomb chamber, studying this being with every sense he possesses. The Force signature is overwhelming, not corrupted by the dark side in the way most Darksiders are corrupted, but born from it, made from it, as if someone took pure dark side energy and compressed it until it became solid, became real, became alive. This is no fallen Jedi, no corrupted innocent. This is darkness incarnate, and Palpatine feels something he hasn't felt in decades. Fear. Not for his life, though Nix could certainly kill him if they chose, but fear that his plans, his schemes, his carefully constructed path to power might all be rendered meaningless by this being's mere existence. "Who are you?" Palpatine asks, his voice carefully controlled, revealing nothing of what he truly feels. Nix tilts their head, studying him with predatory interest, like a Nexu studying prey it hasn't decided whether to eat or play with. "I don't know," they say, and their voice is strange, like two voices speaking in harmony, one male and one female, one young and one ancient. "I've always been here. The tombs are my home. The darkness is my family. The dead whisper to me, teach me things they learned when they were alive. Sometimes I remember things that never happened to me, battles I never fought, names I never learned, faces of people I've never met, but somehow know." Palpatine steps closer, his robes rustling in the stillness. "How long have you been here?" Nix considers the question, as if time is a concept they don't quite understand. "Since always? Since never. I woke up here 15 years ago, I think. Or maybe it was yesterday. Or maybe I've always been awake and only just now realized it. I was small then, like a child, but I knew things children shouldn't know. I knew how to survive. I knew how to feed on the darkness that fills this place. I knew that the galaxy outside these tombs was vast and dangerous, and that I wasn't ready for it yet. So I stayed. I learned. I grew." "Tell me," Palpatine says, reaching out with the Force to probe Nix's mind. What he finds shocks him into momentary silence. This being has no childhood in any conventional sense, no parents, no origin point beyond simply existing. Their earliest memory is awakening in the tombs 15 years ago, fully formed, but with the mind of a child who somehow possessed adult understanding. They learned to survive by instinct, feeding on the dark side energy that saturates Korriban, absorbing knowledge from the Force ghosts of dead Sith who still linger in these halls. Nix doesn't know why they exist, doesn't know what purpose they serve. They only know that they're alive, that they're powerful, and that the darkness loves them in ways it never loved anyone else. "You are the one," Palpatine says, his voice filled with dark triumph, mixed with unease. The prophecy speaks of you. You are the Shadow's heir, born of darkness itself, to bring balance to the Force. Nyx's eyes narrow, and for a moment, their form seems to flicker, becoming less solid, more shadow. Prophecy? Balance? These are just words. I don't care about words. I only care about surviving, about existing, about understanding what I am. The dead in these tombs speak of great things, of Sith empires and Jedi crusades, of endless wars between light and dark. But they all ended up here, didn't they? All their power, all their schemes, and they still became dust. Then let me teach you to be more than dust, Palpatine says, his voice taking on a persuasive quality, honed by decades of manipulation. Let me show you what you truly are, what you could become. The galaxy is vast, Nyx. Why hide in tombs when you could walk among the stars? Why feed on the scraps of dead Sith when you could taste the power of the living Force itself? I can teach you, guide you, help you understand your purpose. Because you do have a purpose. The Force created you for a reason. The offer hangs in the air between them like a living thing. Nyx considers it, their head tilting one way and then the other, as if consulting with parts of themselves that Palpatine cannot see. The shadows in the tomb seem to lean in, listening, waiting. Finally, Nyx nods slowly. Teach me, they say. Show me this galaxy you speak of. Help me understand why I exist. But know this, old man. I can feel your schemes like oil on water. You're manipulating me or trying to. That's fine. I expect nothing less from someone like you. But if you try to control me, if you try to make me your puppet, I will kill you. Not because I hate you, but because that's what the darkness teaches. The strong survive, the weak are consumed, and I intend to survive. Palpatine smiles beneath his hood, the expression hidden but evident in his voice. I would expect nothing less. Come, let me show you what awaits beyond these dead stones. The journey from Korriban to Coruscant takes days, and Palpatine uses every moment to study his new acquisition. Nyx is unlike any Force user he's ever encountered. They don't use the Force so much as they are the Force, or at least a part of it. The dark side responds to them instinctively, without the need for conscious direction. When Nyx is angry, the lights flicker. When they're curious, objects float without them seeming to notice. When they sleep, nightmares leak from their unconscious mind and manifest as shadows that move on their own. It's raw, untrained, dangerous. Exactly what the prophecy described. Palpatine begins Nyx's education carefully. He doesn't try to impose structure the way Jedi would, doesn't try to teach forms or techniques. Instead, he shows Nyx what the dark side is capable of when wielded with intention. He demonstrates Force lightning, not by explaining the mechanics, but by letting Nyx feel the emotion behind it, the rage and hatred that fuel the power. Within hours, Nyx can summon their own lightning, though it burns purple instead of blue, and it moves in ways Palpatine's never does, branching and twisting like a living serpent. He shows Nyx how to cloud minds, to manipulate perceptions, to make people see what isn't there. Nyx learns this even faster. Their natural affinity for shadow-making illusions come easily. But their illusions are different from Palpatine's calculated deceptions. When Nyx creates an illusion, it has weight, substance, reality. It's not just tricking the mind, but actually bending reality for brief moments. Palpatine realizes with growing excitement and unease that Nyx might be capable of things he never imagined, might be able to push the boundaries of what the Force can do in ways even ancient Sith never achieved. But there are complications. Nyx questions everything. They don't accept Palpatine's word as law. They challenge his reasoning, his methods, his goals. When he explains about the Clone Wars he's planning, about using the conflict to destroy the Jedi and seize control of the galaxy, Nix looks at him with those strange, shifting eyes and asks why. Why do you need to rule? What does ruling give you that you don't already have? Is it about power, revenge? Or are you just afraid of not being in control? The questions are uncomfortably insightful, and Palpatine has to work to maintain his composure. The truth is that Nix makes him uncomfortable in ways few beings ever have. This is someone who could potentially challenge him, could potentially take everything he's built and tear it down without even meaning to. But they're also necessary. If the prophecy is real, if there truly is a light side chosen one coming, then Palpatine needs the dark side's champion on his side. He needs to ensure that when the two chosen ones inevitably meet, the encounter goes according to his design, rather than the Force's unknowable will. So he's patient. He shapes Nix's development carefully, teaching them to understand power, but also teaching them to appreciate order. He shows them the chaos of the galaxy, the suffering caused by weak leadership and indecisive governance. He makes the case that someone strong, someone who understands both light and dark, could bring stability, could end the endless cycle of conflict. And Nix listens, absorbs, considers. They don't agree with everything Palpatine says, but they're willing to learn, willing to see where this path leads. For now, the Clone Wars begin with the Battle of Geonosis, just as they did in the original timeline. But this time, there's an unexpected variable. Count Dooku has gathered the Separatist forces, creating the military that will oppose the Republic. Thousands of battle droids fill the arena, surrounding the Jedi who came to rescue Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Senator Amidala. The arena becomes a slaughterhouse as lightsabers clash with blaster fire. Jedi fall by the dozen, overwhelmed by sheer numbers. The survivors form a defensive circle, but they're running out of time, running out of strength. Then Master Yoda arrives with the clone army, the Republic's secret weapon finally revealed. Gunships descend like avenging angels, their weapons tearing through droid formations. The Jedi rally, pushing back against the Separatist forces. For a moment, it seems the day might be won quickly. But Palpatine has other plans. He's been waiting for this moment, preparing Nix for their first real test. Not against droids or politicians, but against Jedi. Against those who serve the light and believe themselves righteous. He wants to see how his Shadow's heir performs under pressure, whether they're truly worthy of the prophecy's promise. The sky darkens as a ship descends through the smoke and dust. It's sleek and black, unmarked by any faction's insignia, its design ancient and predatory. The Jedi pause in their fighting, sensing something wrong. The boarding ramp lowers with a hiss of hydraulics, and Nix steps into the arena, their black robes billowing in the hot wind. They carry no lightsaber, no visible weapon. They don't need one. For a moment, there's perfect stillness. The droids have stopped firing, responding to some signal Nix transmitted without seeming to move. The Jedi stare at this new arrival, trying to assess the threat. They can feel the dark side radiating from Nix like heat from a sun, oppressive and overwhelming. This is no ordinary Sith. This is something else entirely. Something they have no reference for, no training to prepare them for. Mace Windu is the first to act. He's a Jedi Master, veteran of countless battles, wielder of Varpad, and one of the most dangerous warriors the Order has ever produced. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't wait to see what this being might do. He moves with the aggressive precision that makes Varpad so deadly, his purple blade flashing as he crosses the arena in seconds. His strike should take Nyx's head off, should end this threat before it can truly begin. But Nyx catches his lightsaber with their bare hand. The blade should burn through flesh and bone, should turn hand to ash in an instant. But instead, it simply stops, held in place by an invisible barrier of pure force energy that pulses around Nyx's palm. Windu pushes, trying to drive the blade forward through sheer strength. Nyx's expression doesn't change, doesn't show strain or effort, just mild curiosity, as if they're examining an interesting insect. Then Nyx's other hand shoots forward, palm out, and Windu is hurled backward with such force that he crashes through 3 stone columns before finally stopping. He doesn't get up immediately, his body stunned by the impact. Kit Fisto and Plo Koon attack together, their partnership honed by years of fighting side by side. Fisto comes low with a sweeping strike meant to take the legs, while Plo Koon attacks high, his blade aimed at the neck. It's a coordinated assault that few beings could survive. But Nyx isn't fighting like a trained duelist. They're not thinking about forms or techniques. They're moving on pure instinct, letting the dark side guide them. They twist between the attacks with impossible grace, their body bending in ways that shouldn't be anatomically possible, as if their bones and muscles don't follow normal rules. As the 2 Jedi pass them, Nyx's hand sweeps out almost casually. Both masters are lifted into the air, held immobile by invisible bonds of force energy. They struggle, trying to break free, but the grip is absolute. Nyx looks at them with those strange, shifting eyes, and for a moment, the Jedi feel something they haven't felt in years. Terror. Not the clean fear of battle, but the primal terror of prey, recognizing a superior predator. Then, Nyx releases them, and they fall to the ground, gasping. More Jedi rush forward. Luminara Unduli, Shaak Ti, Ki-Adi-Mundi, all skilled masters in their own right, all convinced that together they can overwhelm this threat through coordinated action. Luminara attacks with the refined precision of Form 3, her defense impeccable as she probes for openings. Shaak Ti uses Form V's power strikes, trying to overwhelm through aggression. Ki-Adi-Mundi employs Form V's acrobatics, attacking from unexpected angles. They move as one, their combined assault a deadly dance that has defeated countless enemies. Nyx stands at the center of their attacks, like a stone in a river. They don't try to fight all 3 at once. Instead, they focus on one at a time, with complete attention. When Luminara strikes, Nyx catches her blade the same way they caught Windu's, holding it effortlessly, while their other hand extends toward Shaak Ti. The Togruta Jedi is lifted off her feet and thrown across the arena, her body tumbling through the sand. Ki-Adi-Mundi tries to take advantage of the opening, his lightsaber coming down in a powerful overhead strike. Nyx releases Luminara's blade and spins, their hand coming up to meet the Syrian's wrist. There's a crack as bone breaks, and Ki-Adi-Mundi screams, his lightsaber falling from nerveless fingers. The other Jedi Masters recover and renew their assault. But they're beginning to understand the horrifying truth. This being isn't just powerful. They're operating on a completely different level. Every movement they make is perfectly efficient, wasting no energy, flowing from defense to attack and back again without pause. It's like watching the Force itself fight, unencumbered by the limitations of flesh or training or doubt. Some of the Jedi begin to fall back, reassessing their strategy. Others press forward, determined to protect their brothers and sisters, even if it costs them their lives. Nyx seems to sense the shift in tactics. They spread their arms wide, and the darkness around them coalesces into something visible. Shadows peel away from the ground, from the stands, from the bodies of fallen combatants. They twist and writhe in the air, forming shapes that are almost but not quite recognizable. Beasts from nightmares, Sith lords long dead, demons that never existed except in the darkest dreams. The shadow constructs surge forward, not to kill, but to harry, to distract, to create chaos. The Jedi find themselves fighting on two fronts now. The shadow creatures don't have substance, can't truly harm them, but they can distract, can make the Jedi second-guess their perceptions. Is that shadow a real threat, or just an illusion? Is that shape about to attack, or just a trick of the light? The hesitation costs them. Nix moves through the confusion like a ghost, their hand touching Jedi after Jedi. Each touch sends a pulse of dark side energy through the victim, not killing, but incapacitating, leaving them stunned and gasping on the ground. That's when Anakin Skywalker enters the fight. He's been occupied elsewhere in the arena, fighting droids and trying to protect Padme. But he felt the moment Nix arrived, felt that presence in the Force like ice water down his spine. There's something about this being that calls to him, that resonates with something deep inside him that he doesn't fully understand. He knows he should stay back, should focus on the mission, should trust the Masters to handle this threat. But something compels him forward. The Force itself seems to be pushing him toward this confrontation, whispering that this moment is important, that this meeting will change everything. He charges across the arena, vaulting over debris and fallen droids with the enhanced speed the Force grants him. His blue lightsaber blazes in his hand, the crystal singing with power that reflects his determination. He doesn't know what this being is, doesn't understand the strange pull he feels toward them. He only knows that they're hurting his friends, his fellow Jedi, and that has to stop. Now. Nix's head snaps toward him the moment he commits to the charge. Their eyes meet across the battlefield, and in that instant, both feel it. Recognition. Not of faces or names, but of something deeper, something fundamental. Two halves of a whole that was split apart before either existed. Two sides of the same coin. Destiny calling to destiny. The Force itself seems to pause, holding its breath, waiting to see what will happen next. Anakin's lightsaber comes down in a powerful overhead strike, his Form Vi technique putting his full strength behind the blow. Nix raises their hand, and the blade stops inches from their palm, held by that same invisible barrier. But this time, Nix feels resistance. This Jedi is different, stronger. The pressure he's exerting against the barrier is immense, like trying to hold back a flood. For the first time since arriving on Geonosis, Nix has to actually try, has to push back with conscious effort instead of just existing and letting their power flow naturally. For 3 heartbeats, they stare at each other, locked in this test of strength. Anakin's face is set with determination, sweat beading on his forehead from the effort. Nix's expression is unreadable, their strange eyes searching Anakin's face as if trying to solve a puzzle. Then the battle around them explodes back into motion. Republic gunships strafe overhead, their weapons tearing up the arena floor. Droids surge forward in renewed waves, and the 2 chosen ones are forced apart as their respective sides require their attention. As Nix retreats back toward their ship, dodging blaster fire and deflecting attacks with casual waves of their hand, they call out across the chaos. Their voice carries through the noise, reaching Anakin's ears despite the distance and din. I felt it, Jedi. We're connected somehow. Your destiny and mine are intertwined in ways neither of us can yet understand. The prophecies speak of us both. There are 2 chosen ones, Anakin Skywalker. I know your name. The Force whispers it to me, and we will meet again, When we do, we'll have to decide what that connection means. Anakin stands frozen as the black ship disappears into the smoke-choked sky. Other Jedi are calling his name, asking if he's all right, reporting casualties and strategic positions, but he barely hears them. His mind is reeling. What prophecies? The Jedi only speak of one chosen one individual who will bring balance to the Force by destroying the Sith. But if this being, this creature of pure darkness, is claiming there's another prophecy, another chosen one, then what does that mean? Has everything the Jedi told him been a lie, or just incomplete? And why does the thought of fighting that being again fill him with dread and something else, something he can't quite name, but that feels disturbingly like anticipation? The battle winds down as the Separatist forces retreat. The Jedi gather their wounded and dead, the cost of victory written in blood across the arena sand. Yoda limps among them, his ancient eyes taking in the carnage, the fear still lingering in some Jedi's faces after their encounter with Nix. He says nothing, but Anakin catches him staring, the look on the Grandmaster's face troubled in ways Anakin has never seen before. Something happened here today that goes beyond battle, beyond war. Something that has shaken even Yoda's centuries of wisdom and certainty. As the survivors board the gunships to return to Coruscant, Anakin sits alone, staring at his hands. He can still feel the pressure of that barrier against his lightsaber, still feel the strange connection he shared with Nix in that moment. And he knows, with a certainty that comes from the Force itself, that his life has just become far more complicated than he ever imagined. The war has begun, but there's another war coming, one between destinies, between prophecies, between two individuals who might be enemies or something else entirely. And Anakin has no idea which side he's supposed to be on. The Clone Wars rage across the galaxy like wildfire. Thousands of worlds become battlefields as the Republic and Separatists clash again and again. Anakin Skywalker becomes a general at age 19, given command of the 501st Legion, and tasked with impossible missions that he somehow makes possible through talent, determination, and what some are beginning to call reckless courage. His reputation grows with each victory. The hero with no fear, they call him. The Jedi who never backs down, who never accepts defeat, who finds a way to win even when the odds say it's impossible. But Anakin is afraid. He's terrified, though he hides it behind confidence and bravado. He's afraid of what he felt on Geonosis, afraid of the dreams that have started plaguing him since that battle. In these dreams, he sees Nix. They stand together on a world of fire and shadow, the ground beneath them cracked and glowing with lava. Between them floats a perfect sphere, half brilliant white and half absolute black, rotating slowly as if displaying itself for their inspection. A voice speaks in these dreams, vast and ancient, neither male nor female, neither light nor dark. Two chosen ones, two prophecies, one truth waiting to be discovered. You are the light's champion, they are the dark's heir. Together, you are what the Force has always been, but forgot. Remember. Remember what you were before the split. Remember. Unity. Anakin wakes from these dreams gasping, drenched in sweat, his hands shaking. He doesn't tell anyone about them. Not Obi-Wan, not Padme, not even the Council during his mandatory psychological evaluations. He knows what they would say, that he's being targeted by dark side influence, that these dreams are manipulation, an attempt by the Sith to corrupt him. Maybe they're right, but the dreams feel true in ways Anakin can't explain, like memories of something that hasn't happened yet, but is nonetheless real. Obi-Wan notices the change in his former Padawan. Anakin has always been troubled, always struggled with attachment and fear and anger. But now there's something else. A distance. A questioning. Anakin starts asking about prophecies, about the nature of the Force, about whether the Jedi have ever been wrong about their fundamental understanding of light and dark. These questions trouble Obi-Wan deeply. He recognizes them for what they are, the first steps down a dangerous path that has claimed many Jedi before. The path that leads to doubting the Order, doubting the Code, eventually doubting everything, until there's nothing left but the seductive promises of the dark side. He tries to address Anakin's concerns through their usual methods: meditation, discussion, study of Jedi texts. But Anakin seems unsatisfied with every answer Obi-Wan provides. When Obi-Wan says the dark side is inherently evil, Anakin asks how we can be sure. When Obi-Wan quotes the Code's wisdom about suppressing emotion, Anakin points out that emotions have saved their lives more than once. When Obi-Wan speaks of the prophecy of the Chosen One, Anakin asks if the Jedi's interpretation is the only possible reading of those ancient words. Obi-Wan has no good answers. He's a Jedi, a good one. He believes in the Order, in the Code, in the rightness of the path they walk. But Anakin's questions are finding purchase in doubts Obi-Wan thought he'd resolved years ago. What if the Jedi are wrong? Not about everything, perhaps, but about some things. About the nature of balance, about the role of emotion in the Force, about whether destroying the dark side is truly what bringing balance means. These thoughts are dangerous, heretical, and Obi-Wan can't quite bring himself to dismiss them as easily as he once would have. The Council notices the change in Anakin as well. Master Windu, in particular, watches the young Jedi with increasing suspicion. He remembers Geonosis, remembers the being that called themselves Nyx, remembers the raw power that being displayed, and the connection they claim to have with Anakin. Windu has researched that claim, has delved into restricted sections of the archives, and what he found disturbs him. There are fragments of text, heavily redacted and marked as dangerous knowledge, that speak of a dark prophecy. A shadow, chosen one. A being born of darkness to counter the light's champion. The Council debates what to do about this information. Some argue they should tell Anakin everything, prepare him for what might be coming. Others insist that knowledge of the dark prophecy would only accelerate his fall, would give the dark side ammunition to use against him. In the end, they decide on silence. The risk is too great. Better to let Anakin remain ignorant than to potentially push him toward the very fate they're trying to prevent. It's a decision made with good intentions, but it creates a secret, a lie of a mission that will fester and grow until it poisons everything. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Nyx trains under Palpatine's guidance, but their education is unlike any Sith apprenticeship in history. Palpatine doesn't teach them forms or lightsaber techniques, doesn't drill them in the philosophy of Darth Bane or the ancient Sith Lords. Instead, he teaches Nyx to understand what they already are, to embrace their nature as a being of pure dark side energy given form. Your power doesn't come from anger or hatred like other Darksiders, he explains during one lesson. Those are tools that lesser beings use to touch the dark side. But you are the dark side. It flows through you not because you channel it, but because you are a channel. You're a crack in reality through which the darkness pours into the galaxy. Nyx absorbs these lessons, but they chafe under Palpatine's authority. Their questions become more pointed, more challenging. Why do we hide? If I'm as powerful as you say, If I'm this prophesied champion of darkness, why not reshape the galaxy openly? Why these shadows and secrets and manipulation? Why not simply take what you want through force? The Sith of old commanded empires, ruled openly. Why do you hide behind masks and political positions? Palpatine's answers are patient, calculated. The galaxy isn't ready for open Sith rule. The Jedi are too strong, the Republic too entrenched. We must weaken them first, turn them against themselves, make them doubt their own principles. Only then can we strike and claim what is rightfully ours. But Nix sees through the manipulation. They understand that Palpatine isn't preparing the galaxy for Sith rule. He's preparing it for his own rule, with himself as eternal emperor, and everyone else, Nix included, as tools to be used and discarded when convenient. But Nix says nothing. They pretend to accept Palpatine's reasoning, pretend to be the obedient student he wants them to be. Because Nix has their own agenda now. The dreams have started for them too. The same dreams Anakin experiences, but from the opposite perspective. They see themselves and the Jedi chosen one standing together. See the sphere of perfect balance between them. Hear the ancient voice speaking of unity and forgotten truths. And unlike Anakin, Nix has no one to tell them these dreams are dangerous. No one to warn them against trusting the visions. So they accept them as truth and begin planning accordingly. The confrontation comes on Mustafar, the volcanic world that serves as a secret separatist facility. Anakin has been sent to investigate reports of new droid factories hidden in the lava flows. He moves through the obsidian hallways with his clone troops behind him. But something feels wrong. The Force is thick here, heavy with dark side energy that makes his skin crawl. He orders his men to fall back, to secure the perimeter while he proceeds alone. They protest. Generals shouldn't go into potential ambushes without backup. But Anakin overrules them. Something is calling him deeper into the facility, and he has to answer that call alone. He follows the pull of the Force into the main foundry. Lava flows beneath transparent floors, the heat making the air shimmer and distort. The space is vast, designed to accommodate massive machinery, but all the equipment has been shut down. The only sound is the bubbling of lava and the pounding of Anakin's own heart. He knows who's waiting for him before he sees them, can feel their presence like ice against his skin, despite the volcanic heat. Nix stands at the center of the room, silhouetted against the orange glow of the lava. They've changed since Geonosis. Their robes are different now, crafted from some material that seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their posture is more confident, more certain. They've grown into their power over these months of war, learned to wield it with increasing precision. When they speak, their voice carries easily across the chamber, despite the ambient noise. You came. I knew you would. The Force itself draws us together, Anakin Skywalker. Like gravity, like destiny. We can't resist it any more than we can resist breathing. We're meant to meet, meant to clash, meant to discover what we are to each other. Anakin ignites his lightsaber, the blue blade casting sharp shadows across his face. The familiar snap hiss brings him comfort, grounds him in his training. I don't know what you are, but you've killed Jedi. You serve the enemy. You're part of the Separatist leadership now, part of what's tearing the galaxy apart. I'm here to stop you, to end this. Nix smiles, and it's not cruel but sad, as if they pity Anakin for his limited understanding. Is that what you think this is about? Jedi and Sith, Republic and Separatists? Light and dark as simple categories, as easy labels to slap on complex realities. We're beyond such simple divisions, Anakin Skywalker. You and I exist outside the normal boundaries. We're what the Force created to break the cycle, to shatter the patterns that have repeated for thousands of years. The Jedi fight the Sith. The Sith fight the Jedi. Round and round, forever, achieving nothing but suffering and stagnation. We're here to end that. Together. They spread their arms, and the darkness around them coalesces into a blade of pure shadow. It's not a lightsaber, but something else entirely, formed from concentrated, dark side energy made somehow solid. The blade is longer than a normal lightsaber, slightly curved, and it seems to drink light rather than emit it. Anakin can feel its wrongness, how it shouldn't exist according to everything he knows about the Force. The laws of physics, the rules that govern lightsaber construction, none of them should allow for what he's seeing. And yet it does exist, which means his understanding of what's possible is incomplete. Another crack in the foundation of everything he thought he knew. The two chosen ones circle each other on the narrow bridge above the lava flows. Anakin studies Nix's stance, trying to identify which form they use, what techniques they favor. But there's nothing recognizable there. No form, no style, no pattern he can exploit. Nix moves like water, like shadow, like something that exists between solid and liquid states. He's fought many opponents, but never anyone like this. Never anyone who feels less like a person and more like a force of nature made flesh. Anakin attacks first, his Form Phi aggressive and powerful. Each strike is designed to overwhelm his opponent through sheer force, to break their defense through relentless pressure. His lightsaber becomes a blur of blue light, weaving patterns in the air that have defeated countless enemies. But Nix meets each attack with their shadow blade, and where the two weapons clash, reality seems to crack. Sparks fly that are colors Anakin has never seen before, colors that shouldn't exist. The impact of each strike sends vibrations through his arms that feel wrong, like hitting something that's simultaneously solid and not there. They're evenly matched in raw power. Anakin can feel that immediately. Every ounce of strength he puts into his strikes, Nix matches effortlessly. But they're different in approach. Anakin fights with learned technique, decades of Jedi training guiding his movements. Every strike, every parry, every footwork adjustment has been drilled into him through countless hours of practice. He fights with his mind as much as his body, calculating angles and probabilities, looking for weaknesses to exploit. Nix fights on pure instinct. Their body moves in ways that shouldn't be possible, bending and flowing like living shadow. They don't calculate, they don't plan. They simply react, letting the dark side guide them, trusting their nature as beings of darkness made flesh. When Anakin feints high and strikes low, Nix somehow knows and blocks without seeming to think about it. When Anakin uses the Force to throw debris at them, Nix disperses it with a gesture so casual it might as well be breathing. The duel carries them across the foundry. Anakin leaps to an upper platform, trying to gain high ground advantage. Nix follows, but they don't jump. They run along the wall, defying gravity, their feet somehow finding purchase on the vertical surface. They flip over Anakin, their shadow blades slashing down in a strike that would decapitate him if it connected. Anakin barely blocks, the impact sending him skidding backward across the platform. He responds with a force push, gathering all his strength into a focused wave of telekinetic energy. The attack should send Nix flying backward into the wall hard enough to shatter bone. But Nix absorbs the energy. They open their mouth and breathe in, and Anakin watches in horror as his force push simply disappears into them, like water into sand. Then Nyx exhales, and the energy comes back doubled, tripled, amplified by their own dark side power. Anakin is thrown into the wall hard enough to crack the stone. He feels ribs bruise, maybe break. His vision swims for a moment, stars exploding behind his eyes. Blood trickles from a cut above his eye where his head impacted the wall. He recovers quickly, his Jedi training allowing him to push through pain that would incapacitate a normal being. But he's beginning to understand the horrifying truth. This isn't a fight he can win through technique or skill. Nyx is too different, too alien in how they use the Force. Fighting them like a normal opponent is like trying to punch smoke. He needs a different approach, needs to fight not just with his body but with his mind, his understanding, his connection to the Force itself. Nyx watches him recover, making no move to press the advantage. They're not trying to kill him, Anakin realizes. They're testing him, measuring him, trying to understand what he's capable of, what limits he has, what he might become if pushed hard enough. The thought should anger him, should fuel his determination to win. But instead, it creates a strange resonance. Because isn't he doing the same thing? Testing Nyx, measuring their capabilities, trying to understand this being who claims to be his dark counterpart. "Stop holding back," Nyx says, their voice cutting through the roar of lava below. "I can feel it, the restraint you're exercising. You're trying to fight with Jedi control, trying to suppress the emotions that make you strong. But that's not who you really are, is it? I can feel the anger in you, the frustration, the fear. Not fear of me, but fear of yourself, of what you might become if you let go. Why do you fight your own nature? Why do you deny half of what you are?" The words strike deeper than any physical blow. Anakin snarls and attacks again, but this time his strikes are less controlled, more vicious. The Jedi teach that emotion leads to darkness, that he must maintain control at all times. But Nyx is right. Fighting them like a perfect Jedi isn't working. So he lets himself feel the frustration, the fear, the rage that normally suppresses. Not overwhelming control, not surrendering to emotion, but acknowledging it, letting it flow through him and fuel his power without consuming him. His attacks become faster, harder, more unpredictable. The blue blade moves with renewed intensity, and now Nyx is forced on the defensive. They block and dodge, their shadow blade moving to intercept each strike. But Anakin can see their eyes widening slightly. This is what they wanted to see. This is what they suspected lay beneath Anakin's Jedi exterior. Raw power, fueled by emotion, but not controlled by it. The potential for something that's neither pure light nor pure dark, but some third thing that contains elements of both. Their blades lock, and they stand face to face, neither able to gain advantage. This close, Anakin can see Nyx's eyes in detail. The way they shift between red and purple. The way they seem to contain depths that have nothing to do with physical reality. He can feel their breath, cold despite the volcanic heat around them. Can sense their presence in the Force, vast and terrible and strangely beautiful in its alien nature. "Why are we fighting?" Nyx asks, their voice barely audible over the roar of lava below. Their tone is genuine, confused, as if they truly don't understand the necessity of this conflict. "We're not enemies, Anakin. We're the same. Two halves of a whole that was split apart before the galaxy even knew what the Force was. Can't you feel it? The connection between us. The way the Force itself resonates when we're near each other. We're supposed to be together, not opposed." Anakin does feel it. It's undeniable now, impossible to ignore. This being, this creature of darkness, is connected to him in ways he can't fully understand, but can't deny. They're mirrors of each other, opposites and complements, light and shadow cast by the same source. The revelation should terrify him, should make him fight harder to destroy this darkness that claims kinship with him. But instead, he feels something else: curiosity, understanding, the beginning of acceptance that maybe, just maybe, the Jedi have been wrong about some fundamental things. They push apart and stand at opposite ends of the platform, both breathing hard. The fighting has pushed them both to their limits in ways that normal combat never does. This isn't just a physical battle. It's a spiritual one, a clash of philosophies and understandings, of destinies colliding and trying to determine which will prevail, or if prevailing is even the point. "Tell me about the prophecy," Anakin demands, his voice raw with exertion and emotion. "Your prophecy." "The dark side one. The one you claimed exists on Geonosis." "What does it say? What are we supposed to be?" Nix lowers their shadow blade, letting it dissolve back into formless energy that coils around their hand like a living thing. "There's an ancient Sith teaching," they say, their voice taking on an almost reverent quality. "A prophecy that predates the modern Sith Order, predates even the war between Jedi and Sith that has defined galactic history for millennia. It speaks of a shadow's heir, someone born of pure darkness to counter the light's champion. I'm that heir, Anakin. I was created by the Force itself from the dark side nexus on Korriban. I have no parents, no past, no childhood in any conventional sense. I simply am. Darkness given form and consciousness. And you're the Jedi's chosen one, prophesied to bring balance to the Force by destroying the Sith." "But that's not all, is it?" Anakin asks, his analytical mind working through the implications, even as his heart races with the significance of this revelation. There has to be more to it. Prophecies are never that simple, never that straightforward. What else does it say? What are we supposed to do? Nix nods slowly, and for the first time since they met, Anakin sees something like vulnerability in their expression. The full prophecy says that the two chosen ones must either destroy each other, bringing brief imbalance to the Force before it corrects itself through some other means, or they must unite, recognizing that light and dark are both necessary, both part of the same whole. Only then, only through that unity, can true balance be achieved. Not light winning over dark, not dark consuming light, but both existing together in harmony, in constant tension that creates growth rather than stagnation. The revelation hits Anakin like a physical blow, stealing his breath. Everything the Jedi taught him about destroying the Sith, about the dark side being evil and corrupt and something to be eradicated, about the need for the light to triumph. What if it's all wrong? What if balance doesn't mean victory but equilibrium? What if the Jedi's interpretation of the prophecy is fundamentally flawed because they only see it from one perspective, only understand one side of the Force? He thinks of all the times he's felt the Council's restrictions chafing against his nature, all the times his emotions have made him stronger, faster, more capable rather than weaker, all the times attachment has given him something to fight for rather than something that held him back. The fear he feels for Padme doesn't make him weak. It makes him willing to do anything to protect her. The anger he feels at injustice doesn't corrupt him. It drives him to fight harder against evil. What if the Jedi way isn't the only way? What if it's not even the right way? At least not for everyone. Before they can continue this conversation, Before Anakin can ask the 1,000 questions burning in his mind, the foundry shakes. Explosions rock the facility as Republic forces assault the base. Obi-Wan must have grown worried when Anakin didn't report back, must have ordered the clones to attack. The walls crack, machinery starts to collapse, and the lava flows beneath them surge as the facility's systems begin to fail. Nix looks toward the exits, then back at Anakin. Their expression is unreadable, but their voice carries a note of something that might be regret. We'll meet again, Anakin Skywalker. And next time, we'll have to make a choice. Will we be enemies, locked in combat until one of us destroys the other? Or will we be something else, something new, something the galaxy has never seen? I know which I prefer. I hope you'll make the same choice. They vanish into shadow, literally dissolving into darkness and reforming elsewhere. Anakin reaches out with the Force, trying to track them, but it's like trying to hold smoke. Nix is gone, escaped through some method he doesn't understand. He stands alone on the collapsing platform, his mind reeling with everything he's learned, everything he's felt. Then Obi-Wan's voice crackles through his comlink, urgent and concerned, asking about his status. Anakin responds automatically, falls into the familiar patterns of reporting and coordinating, but part of his mind is elsewhere. Part of him is still on that platform, still locked in that moment of connection with Nix, still trying to understand what it means. Back on Coruscant, Anakin begins his own investigation. The Council's restrictions suddenly feel less like protection and more like obstruction. If there's a dark side prophecy that concerns him directly, he has a right to know about it, a need to understand what he's facing, what he might become. He waits until the temple is quiet, until most Jedi are sleeping or on missions. Then he slips into the archives, using the access codes he's not technically supposed to have, but acquired years ago through a combination of charm and careful observation. The main archives are vast, but Anakin knows they're incomplete. There are restricted sections, levels of knowledge that only Council members can access, texts deemed too dangerous for general consumption. He's explored some of these before, during his Padawan years when curiosity outweighed caution. But now he goes deeper, accessing terminals that require Council-level authorization, finding and exploiting security gaps that probably shouldn't exist but do, because even Jedi systems aren't perfect. What he finds is fragmentary, heavily redacted, marked with warnings about dangerous knowledge. But it's enough. References to a dark prophecy, mentions of a shadow, chosen one, discussions among ancient Jedi about whether balance might mean something other than the destruction of the dark side. These texts are thousands of years old, written by Jedi who lived before the modern order took shape, who had different understandings of the Force, and they've been systematically suppressed, locked away, deemed too risky to study openly. Anakin feels betrayed as he reads. The Council knew, maybe not all of them, maybe not the full truth, but they were aware that their interpretation of the prophecy might be incomplete. They chose to suppress this knowledge, to present their understanding as absolute truth when they had doubts, had questions, had reason to believe there might be more to the story. How many other truths have they hidden? How many other lies has he been fed in the name of his own protection? He's not the only one investigating. Obi-Wan, troubled by Anakin's increasingly pointed questions and his growing distance from the Order, begins doing research of his own. He goes through proper channels at first, asking Council members about the prophecy, about whether there might be alternative interpretations. The responses he gets are dismissive, sometimes outright hostile. This is not for you to question, Master Kenobi. The prophecy is clear. The Chosen One will bring balance by destroying the Sith. That is all you need to know. But Obi-Wan has been a Jedi long enough to recognize when he's being stonewalled. So he starts looking deeper, using his own access to restricted materials, following leads that Anakin missed. What he discovers horrifies him. Not just the existence of the Dark Prophecy, but the extent to which the Council has known and chosen to remain silent. There are recorded discussions going back centuries, debates among Council members about whether they should acknowledge the Dark Prophecy or pretend it doesn't exist. Always, the decision is the same. Silence is safer. Ignorance is easier to manage than knowledge. When he brings this to the Council, the reception is cold. Yoda, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Plo Koon, all the senior members gather to hear what he's discovered. Obi-Wan presents his findings methodically, without anger or accusation, just facts and questions. Why was this hidden? Why wasn't Anakin told? If there truly is a dark Chosen One, if the prophecy speaks of two individuals rather than one, shouldn't we be trying to understand what that means, rather than pretending it doesn't exist? The council chamber falls silent when he finishes. Then Yoda speaks, his voice heavy with age and what might be shame. Know of this we did. Dangerous knowledge it is. Lead Jedi astray, it could. Better to focus on the light, we decided long ago. The path of suppression, easier than the path of understanding. But right, perhaps we were not. The admission shocks everyone present. Yoda acknowledging a mistake. Yoda suggesting the council might have erred. But the ancient Jedi Master continues, his ears drooping with the weight of centuries. Seen much, I have. Wars between Jedi and Sith again and again. Always the same pattern. Light pushes back dark. Dark rises again. Balance through destruction we sought, but achieved it we never have. Perhaps because destruction was never the answer. Perhaps because balance requires both sides, working together, checking each other, forcing each other to grow. Mace Windu shakes his head violently. You can't mean that, Master. The dark side is corruption, evil, everything we stand against. There can be no cooperation with darkness, no harmony with those who serve it. The Sith must be destroyed. That's what the prophecy means. That's what it's always meant. But what if we're wrong? Obi-Wan presses. What if our interpretation is based on thousands of years of war and hatred rather than objective reading of the prophecy? The texts I found suggest that the ancient Jedi, those who lived before the Sith War, had a different understanding. They saw the Force as a whole, light and dark, as necessary counterbalances. It wasn't until the war that we started viewing darkness as purely evil rather than just the opposite of light. The debate rages for hours. Some council members insist that acknowledging the dark prophecy would be dangerous, would potentially drive Anakin toward darkness. Others argue that continuing to hide the truth is even more dangerous, that Anakin will discover it eventually, and the betrayal he feels will push him away from the Order entirely. In the end, they reach a compromise, but it's a weak one, a half measure that satisfies no one. They will continue to monitor the situation. They will not proactively tell Anakin about the dark prophecy. But if he asks directly, if he confronts them with what he's discovered, they will acknowledge the truth and try to guide his understanding. It's a decision made with good intentions, but doomed to backfire. Because secrets have a way of growing in the dark, of festering, of becoming more powerful than they would be if brought into the light. And Anakin's sense of betrayal, when he inevitably discovers how long the Council has hidden this from him, will be all the worse for the delay. Obi-Wan leaves the council chamber frustrated and goes to find Anakin. He needs to warn his former Padawan, needs to at least tell him that there's more to the prophecy than he knows, even if he can't share all the details. But when he reaches Anakin's quarters, he finds his friend staring at a data pad, his expression a mixture of anger and hurt that makes Obi-Wan's heart sink. "I found it," Anakin says quietly, not looking up. "The dark prophecy. The one the council's been hiding for years, maybe centuries. I broke into the restricted archives, Obi-Wan. I know I shouldn't have. I know it violated about a dozen rules. But I had to know. After Mustafar, after fighting Nix and feeling that connection, I had to understand what it meant. And now I do. The Jedi have been lying to me. Maybe not directly, maybe not with words. But lies of omission are still lies." Obi-Wan sits heavily across from his friend, suddenly feeling older than his years. The weight of the situation presses down on him like a physical thing. "I only just discovered it myself," he says. "I came here to tell you, despite the council's orders not to." "Anakin, you need to understand. The council believed they were protecting you by keeping this secret. They thought knowledge of the dark prophecy might push you toward darkness, might make you question things you shouldn't question. And they were right to worry," Anakin says, but there's no triumph in his voice, just weariness. "Because I am questioning things now. Everything they've taught me about light and dark, about the need to destroy the Sith, about what balance really means. What if it's all wrong, Obi-Wan? What if balance doesn't mean light winning, but both sides existing together? The texts I found, the oldest ones, they suggest that's how the ancient Jedi understood it. Light and dark as necessary opposites, each keeping the other in check. That's exactly what the dark side wants you to think," Obi-Wan says, but his words sound hollow even to himself. "The dark side corrupts, Anakin. It promises power and wisdom, but delivers only destruction and suffering. I've seen what it does to people, what it did to Dooku, to Ventress, to countless others. You can't find harmony with something that's inherently corrupt." "Maybe," Anakin replies. "Or maybe the dark side is only corrupt when it's pursued for its own sake, when it's used without balance. Nix, the being I fought on Mustafar, they're made of darkness, literally born from it. But when I fought them, when I looked into their eyes, I didn't see evil. I saw someone trying to understand their purpose, trying to figure out what they're supposed to be, just like me." The words hang in the air between them. Obi-Wan wants to argue, wants to quote the code and the wisdom of generations of Jedi Masters. But he can't, because some part of him, some part he's kept suppressed for years, recognizes the truth in what Anakin is saying. The Jedi way has brought peace to the galaxy for millennia, yes, but it's also led to stagnation, to dogma, to an order that's more concerned with maintaining tradition than actually serving the Force. And maybe, just maybe, that's part of the problem. "I'm not going to fight Nix anymore," Anakin says, his voice firm with decision. "Not until I understand what this all means. The prophecies say we must either destroy each other or unite. Well, I choose unity, even if the Council disagrees, even if it means leaving the Order, because I think the Force is trying to tell us something, and we've been too blind and stubborn to listen." The revelation sends shockwaves through Anakin's relationship with the Jedi Order. He continues to serve, continues to lead his troops and fight in the war. But there's a wall now, a distance between him and his fellow Jedi that grows with each passing day. He performs his duties competently, but without passion, going through the motions while his mind is elsewhere. The Council senses this change, and watches him even more closely, which only drives him further away. It's a spiral, a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more they doubt him, the more he doubts them, until the gap becomes too wide to bridge. Palpatine has been waiting for exactly this moment. His agents have reported Anakin's growing disillusionment, his questioning of Jedi doctrine, his increasing isolation from the Order. The time has come to reveal himself, to play his final card. But he must be careful. Anakin is not the naive boy he once was. He's grown, become stronger, become capable of seeing through manipulation. And the existence of Nix complicates things. The Shadow's heir was supposed to be a tool, a weapon to use against the Jedi. But they've developed independence, a will of their own that doesn't always align with Palpatine's plans. So he calls them both to Coruscant, sends a coded message to Nix, ordering them to return, arranges a private meeting with Anakin under the guise of discussing war strategy. It's a gamble, bringing both Chosen Ones together in the same location. They might turn on him, might recognize him as the manipulator he is, and unite to destroy him. But Palpatine has been playing this game for too long to fail now. He knows what motivates each of them, knows how to play their doubts and desires against each other, and he's prepared contingencies upon contingencies. The Chancellor's office on Coruscant is a place of understated power, rich but not ostentatious, comfortable but not luxurious. Palpatine has cultivated an image over the years, the kindly politician who genuinely cares about the Republic, who works tirelessly for peace. Anakin has come here countless times over the years, has received counsel and comfort, has found someone who seemed to appreciate him in ways the Jedi Council never did. But now, knowing what he knows about the Dark Prophecy, seeing the patterns of manipulation more clearly, Anakin enters with suspicion. Palpatine greets him with the same warm smile, the same grandfatherly concern. But before he can launch into whatever script he's prepared, Anakin speaks first. You knew about the Dark Prophecy, about Nix, about all of it. You've known from the beginning, haven't you? That's why you've been cultivating me, why you've been so interested in my development. Because I'm one piece of your plan, whatever that plan is. The smile doesn't falter, but Palpatine's eyes sharpen. He studies Anakin for a long moment, reassessing, recalculating. Then he laughs, soft and sad. You've learned about the Dark Prophecy. Good. That saves us some time. Yes, Anakin, I knew. I am the Sith Lord the Jedi have been searching for. I am Darth Sidious, master of the dark side, architect of this war. I've been orchestrating events from both sides, Republican and Separatist, for decades. But before you attack me, before you try to fulfill your role as the Jedi's weapon, you should know something important. I'm not your enemy. I never have been. Anakin's hand goes to his lightsaber, but doesn't draw it. He's too stunned, his mind racing through the implications. Chancellor Palpatine is the Sith Lord, the man who's been guiding Republic policy, who's been a friend and mentor. But even as shock races through him, part of Anakin isn't surprised. The manipulation, the way events always seem to benefit Palpatine's position, the careful cultivation of Anakin himself. It all makes sense now. Makes terrible, perfect sense. You, Anakin says, his voice barely above a whisper, you're behind everything. The war, the deaths of thousands of Jedi, the suffering of entire worlds. All of it was you. Why? What could possibly be worth all that? Because the current order is broken, Palpatine says, and his voice takes on a passion Anakin has never heard before. The Jedi are stagnant, clinging to dogma that hasn't evolved in centuries, more concerned with maintaining their own power than actually serving the galaxy. The Republic is corrupt, bloated, ineffective. The Senate debates while worlds burn. The systems that are supposed to protect people have become machines that grind them down. I've seen it for my entire life, Anakin. The decay, the rot, the slow death of everything the Republic once stood for. And I decided someone had to do something about it. Someone had to be willing to burn it all down and build something better from the ashes. "You're insane," Anakin says, but there's doubt in his voice. Because some part of him, the part that's been questioning the Jedi, the part that's seen the Republic's failures firsthand, recognizes truth in Palpatine's words. The system is broken. That's undeniable. But this, starting a war that's killed millions? That can't be the answer. "Am I?" Palpatine asks, leaning forward. "Look at what this war has revealed, Anakin. The Republic's military had to be created from nothing because the civilian government was completely unprepared for actual threats. The Jedi have become generals instead of peacekeepers because they had no other choice. Every weakness, every failing, every crack in the foundation has been exposed. And now we can build something new, something stronger, something that actually works. But I can't do it alone. That's where you come in. You and Nix." "What do you mean?" Anakin asks, even though he suspects he already knows the answer. "I found Nix years ago," Palpatine explains. "After I discovered the Dark Prophecy, I searched the galaxy for the Shadow's heir. When I found them on Korriban, I trained them. Not to destroy you, though I could have used them that way, but to be ready for when the time came. The time when both chosen ones would have to decide what balance really means. You see, Anakin, I believe the prophecies are both true and both incomplete. The Jedi's version speaks of destroying the Sith. The dark version speaks of remaking the Force. But neither addresses the fundamental problem, the endless cycle of conflict that achieves nothing." "What are you proposing?" Anakin asks, even though every instinct screams at him to attack, to end this threat right now. But curiosity holds him back. Curiosity and the nagging thought that maybe, just maybe, Palpatine has a point buried under all the manipulation and evil. "Partnership," Palpatine says simply. "You, me, and Nix. The three of us working together to create a new order. One where the Force isn't divided into light and dark sides constantly at war. One where both exist in balance, checking each other, creating stability through tension rather than through dominance. With you as the light's champion, and Nix as the dark's heir, and me providing the wisdom of centuries of Sith knowledge, we could reshape the galaxy. Bring true peace, true order, true balance." Before Anakin can respond, alarms blare throughout the Senate building. His comlink activates, and Obi-Wan's urgent voice comes through. "Anakin, we know about Palpatine. The Council has suspected for some time, been gathering evidence. We're coming for him now. Whatever you do, don't try to protect him. Don't let him manipulate you. We're almost there." Palpatine smiles, and there's something almost proud in his expression. And so it begins. "The Jedi will storm this office, Anakin. They'll try to kill me without trial, without proof that would stand up in any court. They'll use emergency powers to seize control, all in the name of protecting the Republic. And you'll have to choose. Will you stand with them and their lies, with their incomplete understanding of the Force and their dogmatic restrictions? Or will you stand with me and help forge something new, something better?" Anakin steps back from both Palpatine and the door, his mind racing. This is it, the moment everything has been building toward. The choice that will define not just his future, but the future of the entire galaxy. And he has seconds to decide. The Jedi are coming. Palpatine is revealed as the Sith Lord. And somewhere out there, Nix is probably on their way here as well, drawn by the same destiny that connects all three of them. "I won't stand with either of you," Anakin says finally, his voice firm despite the chaos in his mind. "Not until I talk to Nix. If we're truly meant to bring balance together, then this decision has to be ours. Not yours, Chancellor. Not the Council's. Ours. This is about two chosen ones and what balance means. Everyone else, Jedi and Sith alike, has had their chance to shape the galaxy. And look where it's gotten us. Endless war. Endless suffering. Maybe it's time to try something different." He reaches out with the Force, sending a message across the vast distances of space. It's something he's never done before, never tried. But the connection he shares with Nix makes it possible. The Force itself carries his call, amplifying it, ensuring it reaches its target. "Nix, if you can hear this, I need you to come to Coruscant. Now, the Senate building. It's time we stop letting others define our destinies. It's time we decide for ourselves what we're supposed to be." The response is immediate, resonating through the Force like a bell being struck. "I'm already on my way. I've been waiting for you to reach out. Hold on, Anakin Skywalker. Whatever's about to happen, we'll face it together." The Senate building becomes a battlefield. Mace Windu leads a strike team of Jedi Masters, Kit Fisto, Agen Kohler, and Sei Sitin at his side. All powerful, all experienced, all grimly determined to end the Sith threat once and for all. They move through the corridors with weapons drawn, cutting through Senate guards who try to stop them. These aren't clones, not yet programmed to execute Order 66. These are regular soldiers who don't understand what's happening, who think they're defending their Chancellor from Jedi attempting a coup. The Masters disarm them non-lethally when possible, but they can't afford to be gentle. Time is critical. They burst into Palpatine's office with weapons ignited, expecting to find the Sith Lord alone, or perhaps with Anakin as a hostage. Instead, they find Anakin standing between them and Palpatine, his lightsaber ignited, but pointed at neither side. The shock on Mace Windu's face would be comical if the situation weren't so dire. "Stand aside, Anakin," Mace commands, his voice allowing no argument. "This man is a traitor to the Republic, a Sith Lord who's been manipulating everything from the shadows. He must face justice." "Your justice?" Anakin asks, and there's an edge to his voice that makes several Masters tense. "Or execution disguised as justice? Mace, you're about to strike down an unarmed man without trial. How is that any different from what the Sith do? How is that justice rather than assassination?" "He's too dangerous to be left alive," Mace argues, but some of the other Masters exchange uncertain glances. "You of all people should understand that, Anakin. His influence, his manipulations have cost countless lives. Millions have died because of this war he created. How many more will die if we let him live?" "And what about the Council's manipulations?" Anakin counters, his voice rising with suppressed anger. "You hid the dark prophecy from everyone. You lied about the nature of balance because the truth didn't fit your ideology. You've been lying to me my entire time as a Jedi, feeding me half-truths and expecting me to just accept them on faith. How many Jedi fell to darkness because they thought it was their only option? How many could have been saved if you'd taught us that light and dark could coexist?" The accusation hangs in the air, like smoke. The Jedi Masters stand frozen, weapons still raised, but doubt beginning to creep into their expressions. Anakin has hit on something they've all wondered about at some point. a question that every honest Jedi has asked themselves in the quiet moments. What if we're wrong? What if our understanding is incomplete? That's when Nyx arrives. They don't come through the door like a normal person. They materialize from shadows in the corner of the room, stepping out of darkness as if walking through a door only they can see. Their presence immediately changes the dynamic of the situation. Every Jedi Master can feel the dark power radiating from them, overwhelming and alien. This is the being from Geonosis and Mustafar, the one who fought multiple masters to a standstill and walked away unscathed. And now they're here, in an enclosed space, with nowhere for anyone to run. "What is this?" Kit Fisto demands, his normally cheerful demeanor replaced by battle-ready tension. His smile is gone, replaced by grim determination. Every master shifts their stance, preparing to defend themselves. Stand down, Skywalker. Don't let them manipulate you. That's a creature of pure darkness. This is what the prophecies truly speak of, Nyx says, their voice carrying easily despite not being particularly loud. Their strange, shifting eyes survey the room, taking in every detail, every person, every potential threat. Not light triumphing over dark, not dark destroying light, but both existing together, in balance. Anakin and I are proof that the Force never wanted one side to dominate. It wanted harmony. It wanted both perspectives, both approaches, both philosophies working in tandem rather than in opposition. Lies, Mace says, but his voice lacks the certainty it had moments ago. The dark side corrupts everything it touches. You're a creature of corruption, trying to seduce Anakin to fall. We won't let that happen. We can't let that happen. The Chosen One is supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. "I haven't fallen," Anakin says firmly, and his voice carries such conviction that even Mace pauses. "I've simply opened my eyes." The Jedi way isn't wrong, Mace, but it's not the only way. It's not complete. True balance requires both light and dark, both compassion and passion, both serenity and emotion. And that's what Nyx and I represent together. The potential for something new, something the galaxy has never seen, because both Jedi and Sith have been too committed to their respective extremes to recognize the middle ground. Palpatine, sensing his plans slipping away from his control, makes his move. He's been patient, letting Anakin and Nyx make their arguments, watching the Jedi Master's resolve weaken. But he can't allow this to continue. If the two Chosen Ones truly unite independent of his influence, if they decide to forge their own path without him, then all his centuries of planning will be for nothing. He needs conflict, needs the Jedi and Nyx to fight, needs Anakin to be forced to choose sides. Only through crisis can he maintain control. With a snarl of manufactured rage, he unleashes Force lightning at the Jedi Masters. The attack is sudden, vicious, meant to look like desperate self-defense. Blue-white energy arcs across the room, targeting Mace Windu with lethal intent. The lightning should strike the Jedi Master, should send him convulsing to the ground, should force Anakin to intervene and save him, creating a debt, creating obligation, creating the first step toward turning. But Anakin moves faster. His lightsaber intercepts the lightning mid-flight, the blue blade absorbing and dissipating the deadly energy. The surprise on Palpatine's face is genuine. He didn't expect this, didn't plan for Anakin to protect the Jedi while simultaneously refusing to join them. The boy has developed independence, wisdom, the ability to see through manipulation. Palpatine's greatest weapon has become unpredictable. "No more manipulations," Anakin says, his voice cold with anger. "From anyone. Not from you, Chancellor. Not from the Council. not from anyone who thinks they know what's best for the galaxy. This ends today. But it ends our way. Nyx's and mine. The chosen ones deciding their own fate rather than dancing on strings pulled by others. Nyx turns to face Palpatine, their shadow blade materializing in their hand. The weapon pulses with dark energy, eager to strike. The expression on Nyx's face is complex, mixing anger with something that might be disappointment. "You used me," they say, and there's genuine hurt in their voice beneath the fury. "You found me in the tombs, alone and confused, and you made me think you were helping me understand my purpose. But you were just shaping me into a weapon, a tool to serve your grand design. You never cared about me, about what I am or what I need. You only cared about how I could be used." "I taught you everything you know," Palpatine says, and his voice has changed. The kindly Chancellor persona is gone, replaced by the cold calculation of Darth Sidious. "I gave you purpose when you had none. I showed you the galaxy when you knew only tombs. Without me, you would still be feeding on scraps of dark side energy, slowly going mad in the darkness. You owe me everything." The words might have worked weeks ago, might have sparked doubt in Nyx's mind about their choices. But not anymore. Not after the connection they've felt with Anakin. Not after understanding what they could be together, rather than as separate pawns in someone else's game. "I owe you nothing," Nyx says. "You taught me about the dark side, yes, but you never understood what I truly am. I'm not corrupted by darkness. I am darkness, and I choose who I serve. Right now, I choose to serve the truth that both light and dark are necessary. The truth that balance means unity, not domination. The truth that your scheme for eternal power ends here." The battle that follows is unlike anything the Jedi have ever witnessed. Palpatine, realizing he's lost control of the situation, fights with desperate fury. His lightsaber appears from his sleeve, the red blade igniting with a snap hiss that seems to lower the temperature in the room. His mastery of the dark side is evident in every movement. He's ancient, far older than his apparent age suggests, and he's been refining his skills for longer than any Jedi Master in this room has been alive. When he moves, it's with impossible speed, a blur of red energy and crackling force lightning. He targets the Jedi Masters first, recognizing them as the most immediate threat. Kit Fisto is his first victim, the Nautolan's smile finally appearing in the heat of battle, the expression he always wears when fighting at his peak. His green blade flashes 3 times, nearly finding Palpatine's throat. But the Sith Lord is faster, his red blade punching through Fisto's chest before the Jedi can react. Fisto's eyes widen in shock, his smile faltering. Then he collapses. Aegon Kolar attacks in rage, his lightsaber coming down in a powerful overhead strike. But Palpatine sidesteps casually, almost contemptuously, and his blade removes Kolar's head in a spinning strike. Saesee Tiin, recognizing the danger, tries to use the Force to push Palpatine away, to buy time for the remaining Masters to coordinate. But Palpatine simply absorbs the push and responds with a torrent of lightning so intense that Tiin doesn't even have time to scream. His body turns to ash in seconds, crumbling to the floor as dust. That leaves only Mace Windu, the most dangerous of the Jedi Masters, the one whose Varpad style turns an opponent's own darkness against them. The two duel across the office, their blades meeting in a screaming clash of red and purple. They're evenly matched in skill, both masters of their respective philosophies. Palpatine's Sith techniques are brutal and efficient, designed to kill quickly and overwhelm through aggression. Mace's Varpad embraces that aggression, channels it, uses the darkness of combat to fuel his own power without being consumed by it. Their fight destroys the office, reducing furniture to splinters and shattering walls. The windows blow out from the force of their clash, and suddenly they're dueling on a ledge hundreds of stories above Coruscant's surface. The wind howls around them, but neither warrior seems to notice. They're too focused on each other, too committed to this final confrontation to care about anything else. Meanwhile, Anakin and Nix stand together, watching but not interfering. They're not here to choose sides, not here to tip the balance one way or the other. They're here to witness, to understand, to see how this conflict plays out before making their move. But they're ready. Both chosen ones have their weapons drawn, have their power gathered. When the moment comes, when it's time for them to act, they'll move together. As one, as they were always meant to. Palpatine finally drives Mace back to the window's edge, his lightsaber at the Jedi Master's throat. His face is twisted with dark triumph, the mask of the kindly Chancellor completely gone. He's revealed in his true form now, a creature of pure malice and hatred who's been hiding for decades. You've failed, Master Windu. The Jedi have failed. Your order is finished, your precious republic about to be reformed into an empire, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Turn to the dark side or die. Those are your only options. There's a third option, Anakin says, and both Palpatine and Mace turn to look at him. Anakin and Nix step forward together, their combined presence in the Force overwhelming. The room itself seems to warp around them, reality bending under the weight of their power. "Help me destroy him," Anakin says to Mace. Not because he's a Sith, not because he's evil, but because he's a manipulator who's caused suffering for his own gain. After that, after he's dealt with, we can figure out what comes next, what balance really means. But first, let's end his scheme for power. Palpatine realizes his mistake too late. He focused on the individual pieces, on controlling Anakin or Nix separately, on using the Jedi's own dogma against them. But he never considered what would happen if all of them, light and dark and everything between, decided he was the real enemy. He tries to attack, tries to use his lightning to scatter them, to force them to fight each other instead of him. But Anakin and Nix move as one. Their connection allows them to coordinate without speaking, to flow together like they've been fighting side by side for years. They attack as one, Anakin and Nix moving in perfect synchronization, despite never having trained together. Their connection through the Force allows them to anticipate each other's movements, to flow together like two parts of a single organism. Anakin's blue lightsaber and Nix's shadow blade create a pattern of light and darkness that seems almost hypnotic in its complexity. They're not just fighting, they're dancing, weaving around each other in a way that's beautiful and terrifying. Palpatine blocks Anakin's high strike, only to be forced low by Nix's sweeping attack. He dodges Nix's thrust, only to nearly lose his head to Anakin's counter-slash. Every opening he exploits in one defense leaves him vulnerable to the other. It's like fighting a Hydra, where attacking one head just means another strikes from an unexpected angle. And worse, he can feel their power growing. The more they fight together, the more synchronized they become. The light and dark energies aren't clashing as they should. They're complementing each other, enhancing each other, creating something that's far more powerful than the sum of its parts. Mace Windu watches this display with growing comprehension and horror. This is what balance looks like. Not light winning over dark, or dark consuming light, but both working in tandem, creating something new through their interaction. It goes against everything he's been taught, everything he believes. And yet he can't deny what he's seeing. The two chosen ones are magnificent together, unstoppable together. And Palpatine, for all his power and skill and centuries of preparation, is losing. The Sith Lord unleashes everything he has. Lightning arcs from his fingertips, enough raw power to shatter stone and turn flesh to ash. But Anakin and Nix split the attack between them, each absorbing half. The energy flows through them, around them, channeled and redirected rather than resisted. Anakin takes the light-aspected portion of the lightning, the energy that seeks to burn and destroy. Nix takes the dark-aspected portion, the malice and hatred that fuel the attack. And then they send it back, but transformed. No longer pure light or pure dark, but a mixture, a blend that represents their union. The combined attack strikes Palpatine before he can dodge, and his scream echoes across Coruscant. The energy doesn't just hurt him physically, it attacks him on a spiritual level, tearing at the very essence of what he is. He's a creature of pure darkness, corrupted and twisted by decades of embracing the dark side for its own sake. And now, he's being hit with an attack that contains both light and dark in balance. An attack that his nature can't properly process or defend against. He staggers back, his body smoking, his face twisted in agony and rage. You've ruined everything. Years of planning, centuries of Sith preparation, all wasted on your foolish idealism. Balance cannot exist. The Force demands conflict, demands struggle. Without that, there is no growth, no evolution. One side must dominate, or everything stagnates. You're wrong, Nix says, their voice carrying a certainty that comes from lived experience, rather than theory. I am darkness incarnate, Palpatine. I was born from the dark side itself. And I'm telling you that conflict and growth don't require one side destroying the other. They require both sides pushing against each other, challenging each other, forcing each other to evolve. That's what true balance means. Not victory, not domination, but eternal tension that creates progress rather than stagnation. Anakin steps beside Nix, and together they raise their hands. The Force responds to their combined will in ways it never has before. Not light overcoming dark, not dark consuming light, but both existing together, creating something entirely new. The energy that flows from them is unlike anything ever seen, a perfect mixture of both sides of the Force. It appears as light that somehow contains shadow, as darkness that shines with its own luminescence. It's a paradox, an impossibility, and yet it's real. The attack strikes Palpatine before he can defend himself, and his scream reaches a pitch that shatters the remaining windows. His body begins to dissolve, not destroyed, but unmade. His essence scatters, spread so thoroughly across the Force that not even the dark side can bring him back. He's not just killed, but erased, removed from reality, as if he never existed. His final expression is one of disbelief, unable to comprehend how his perfect plan could have failed so completely. The two chosen ones lower their hands, both breathing hard from the exertion of that final attack. Creating something that contains both light and dark in perfect balance isn't just difficult. It's exhausting in ways normal Force use isn't, like trying to hold two opposing forces in tension without letting either overcome the other. But they did it. Together, they accomplished what neither could have alone. They destroyed the greatest Sith Lord in generations, not through superior power, but through unity. Behind them, Mace Windu stares in shock. The practical part of his mind is calculating, analyzing what just happened, trying to fit it into his understanding of the Force. The emotional part is simply stunned, unable to process that everything he thought he knew might be wrong. On the floor, Palpatine's robes lie empty, his lightsaber cooling beside them. The Sith Lord is gone. The great manipulator has been removed from the board. But what comes next? What have you done? Mace whispers, and there's no anger in his voice. Just confusion. Just the bewilderment of a man whose entire worldview has been shaken. You killed him, together, light and dark working as one. That shouldn't be possible. It violates everything we know about the Force. Maybe what you know is incomplete, Anakin says, not unkindly. He's exhausted, both physically and emotionally. The weight of what just happened is settling on his shoulders like a physical burden. We didn't destroy him through the light side or the dark side. We did it through balance, through unity. And the Force didn't reject that approach. It embraced it. It made it possible. What does that tell you about whether the Jedi's understanding is the only truth? Mace doesn't answer. He can't. Because Anakin is right. And admitting that means admitting that the Jedi Order has been fundamentally wrong about something for thousands of years. It means questioning everything he's dedicated his life to. And that's a journey he's not ready to begin, may never be ready to begin. Other Jedi are arriving now, drawn by the sounds of battle and the disturbance in the Force. They find a scene of devastation. 3 Jedi Masters dead, the Chancellor's office destroyed, and Mace Windu standing frozen, while Anakin and Nix, 2 chosen ones, face him united. There are calls for explanations, demands to know what happened, weapons being drawn as Jedi prepare to defend their master against what they perceive as threats. But before violence can erupt again, Yoda arrives. The ancient Jedi Master limps into the ruined office, his Geimer stick tapping against the floor, his presence in the Force a calming influence. He surveys the scene with eyes that have witnessed nearly 900 years of galactic history, takes in the bodies of fallen masters, the absence of Palpatine, the exhausted chosen ones standing together. And slowly, deliberately, he nods. Ended, the threat of the Sith has, he says, his voice carrying despite its quietness. Wrong about many things we were, about balance, about the prophecy, about the path we must walk. See this now, I do. Too late for some, not too late for all. He turns to face the other Jedi who have gathered, addressing them as the leader he is. A choice we face. Cling to old ways and watch as the Force shows us they are incomplete. Or learn, adapt, grow. Acknowledge that light and dark are both parts of the whole, both necessary for true balance. Frightening, this is. Difficult, it will be, but necessary. The aftermath is chaotic, complicated, full of debates and arguments and difficult decisions. The Jedi Council meets in emergency session, discussions that last for days as they try to process what happened, what it means, what they should do next. Some council members argue that Anakin should be expelled from the Order, that Nix should be destroyed as a creature of darkness. Others suggest that this is an opportunity to reconsider fundamental Jedi philosophy, to acknowledge that their understanding has been limited. The debates rage throughout the Jedi Temple, echoing through its halls. Younger Jedi, especially those who have felt the restrictions of the Code, chafing against their nature, are more open to this new understanding. Older Jedi, those who have dedicated lifetimes to the traditional path, struggle with the implications. Some leave the Order rather than accept that they might have been wrong. Others stay but withdraw into meditation, trying to process this revelation. In the wider galaxy, the revelation of Palpatine's betrayal sends shockwaves through the Republic. The Chancellor who led them through war was actually the enemy all along. The trusted politician was a Sith Lord manipulating both sides. The Senate nearly tears itself apart, trying to assign blame, trying to understand how this could have happened. Some demand investigation of everyone who worked closely with Palpatine. Others insist they should focus on ending the war now that the mastermind is gone. The Separatists, suddenly leaderless, fracture and collapse. Without Palpatine's coordination and Dooku's leadership after his death on Geonosis, the various factions that made up the CIS have no unifying force. Some surrender immediately, seeking amnesty. Others try to seize power in the chaos. A few simply dissolve back into the populations they came from, content to return to normal life now that the war is ending. The Republic moves to accept surrenders and negotiate peace treaties, but it's a messy process that will take years to fully resolve. Anakin and Nix, at the center of all this chaos, remove themselves from the immediate crisis. They travel to a neutral world, a place strong in both light and dark aspects of the Force, and begin the process of truly understanding what they are to each other. The connection between them is undeniable now, impossible to ignore. But understanding it, learning to use it, that requires work, requires time, requires both of them to let go of preconceptions and simply experience what the Force is showing them. They meditate together, sitting back to back, so their presence in the Force mingles and interacts. Anakin can feel Nix's darkness, but it's not evil or corrupt as he's been taught. It's simply a different aspect of the Force, a different perspective, a different way of understanding reality. Nix can feel Anakin's light, and they're surprised to find it's not weak or restrictive. It's a source of strength, of compassion, of the will to protect and help others. Together, they're discovering that light and dark aren't opposites in the way the galaxy has always believed. They're complements, two sides of the same coin, two aspects of a unified whole that was split long ago and has been trying to reunite ever since. Obi-Wan visits them during this period, his own crisis of faith written clearly on his face. He's been a Jedi his entire life, has never known anything else, has dedicated himself to the Order and the Code with complete devotion. And now he's being forced to question whether that devotion was misplaced, whether the path he's walked was incomplete. It's tearing him apart, and Anakin can see it in the way his former master moves, the way he speaks, the weight he carries. "I don't know what to do," Obi-Wan admits, sitting across from the two chosen ones. The Order is fracturing. Some Jedi are embracing these new ideas, talking about acknowledging emotion and attachment as valid parts of the Force. Others are becoming more rigid, more dogmatic, insisting that any compromise with darkness is the first step toward evil. And I, Obi-Wan Kenobi, exemplar of the Jedi way, don't know where I stand. Part of me wants to cling to what I know, to trust that the wisdom of centuries can't be wrong. But another part sees what you two have accomplished together and wonders if I've been blind my entire life. "You're not blind," Anakin says gently. "The Jedi way works for some people. It brought you peace and purpose. It helped you become the man you are. That's not wrong, Obi-Wan. It's just incomplete. It's one path among many, not the only path. Some people need that structure, that clarity, those firm boundaries. But others, like me, need something different. Need room to feel, to love, to embrace emotion without being consumed by it. Neither way is wrong. They're just different." The words clearly resonate with Obi-Wan, though he struggles to fully accept them. He spent his entire life believing there was one right way to be a Jedi, one correct interpretation of the Force. Accepting multiplicity of truth is harder than accepting any single truth, no matter how strange, But he's trying, and that's what matters. Trying to grow beyond his conditioning, to see past the limits of his training. After weeks of meditation and discussion, Anakin and Nix make a decision. They won't rejoin either the Jedi or any potential Sith remnants. They won't try to force the galaxy to accept their understanding of balance. Instead, they'll create something new. A place where Force users can come to learn about both light and dark, where people can find their own balance rather than having it imposed from above. They'll call it the Grey Order, acknowledging that they walk between the extremes. The Jedi Council debates their request to establish this new order. Some see it as heresy, a rejection of everything the Jedi stand for. Others see it as an opportunity, a way to prevent future Force users from falling to darkness, because they thought it was their only alternative to rigid Jedi dogma. In the end, Yoda casts the deciding vote. Permission you have. Dangerous this path may be, but dangerous also is the old path, as we have seen. Try something new we must. Trust the Force to guide us toward wisdom. They choose their location carefully. A world that exists at the intersection of light and dark, where both energies are naturally strong. Not Korriban with its overwhelming darkness, not Ahch-To with its pure light, but somewhere balanced, somewhere that reflects what they're trying to create. They begin construction of a temple, but it's unlike any Jedi temple or Sith academy. It's designed with input from both perspectives, creating spaces for meditation and spaces for emotional expression, areas of serenity and areas that allow for passion. Students begin to arrive. Some are former Jedi who felt constrained by the Order's restrictions. Some are individuals who would have fallen to darkness but found an alternative path. Some are simply Force sensitives who want to understand their abilities without being forced to choose between extremes. Anakin and Nix teach them together, showing them how to access both light and dark aspects of the Force, how to find their own balance rather than imposing someone else's. The training is radically different from traditional Jedi methods. They don't suppress emotion, but they teach students to understand it, to use it constructively rather than being controlled by it. They don't forbid attachment, but they teach the difference between healthy bonds and destructive obsession. They acknowledge anger as a valid response to injustice, but teach how to channel it into action rather than letting it become hatred. It's a tightrope walk, requiring constant vigilance and self-awareness. Some students fail, fall too far into darkness, and have to be stopped. Others become too rigid, clinging to light so tightly they lose their capacity for growth. But many succeed, find their own equilibrium, become Force users who can draw on both light and dark as situations demand, who can be compassionate and passionate, serene and fierce, protective and powerful. They're not Jedi and not Sith, but something new, something the galaxy hasn't seen before, or at least not for thousands of years, since before the Great Schism that split the Force philosophies into warring camps. Years pass. The Clone Wars officially end with negotiated settlements rather than total victory. The Republic survives but changes, reforming itself in response to how close it came to falling. The Jedi Order survives as well, but smaller, more humble, more willing to admit it doesn't have all the answers. Some Jedi join Anakin and Nix's Grey Order. Others maintain the traditional path, but with more flexibility, more acknowledgement that their way isn't the only way. A new generation grows up in a galaxy where the Force is understood differently. Children are taught that emotions aren't evil, but must be balanced with wisdom. That power isn't wrong, but must be tempered with responsibility. That both light and dark exist in everyone, and the goal isn't to destroy one in favor of the other, but to find harmony between them. It's not perfect, there are still those who fall too far into darkness, still those who become too rigid in their adherence to light. But now there are others who understand that balance is a choice, a constant effort, rather than a final destination. In the temple built on that balanced world, Anakin and Nyx stand together, looking out at students training below. Some use conventional lightsabers, creating forms that blend multiple traditional styles. Others have learned to create shadow blades like Nyx, or hybrid weapons that shift between light and dark based on the wielder's focus. All of them practice finding their own balance, their own path, their own understanding of what the Force means to them. "Did we do the right thing?" Nyx asks. And despite all the years that have passed, the uncertainty remains. Breaking from both Jedi and Sith to create something new, it's presumptuous. Arrogant, maybe. Who are we to say we understand balance better than orders that have existed for millennia? Anakin considers the question, watching as a student successfully merges light and dark techniques into a single, flowing form. "The Jedi taught me that the right path was to suppress parts of myself," he says. "To deny emotion, to avoid attachment, to always maintain perfect serenity. The Sith would have told me to give in to those parts completely, to let emotion consume me, to pursue power without restraint. But you showed me there was another option. Not suppression or surrender, but integration. Taking all parts of myself, light and dark, and making them work together, finding strength in balance rather than extremism. So yes, I think we did the right thing, even if it's harder this way. Maybe because it's harder." Nyx nods slowly, a slight smile crossing their features. The smile still looks strange on their shadow-touched face, but it's genuine, real. Over the years, they've become more human, more connected to life, rather than just existing as an embodiment of darkness. The prophecies were right about one thing. We did bring balance. Just not the way anyone expected. Not through victory or destruction, but through unity. Through proving that opposites can coexist, can strengthen each other, can create something greater than either could alone. They stand together in companionable silence, two halves of a whole, light and shadow. Proof that even the oldest prophecies can be fulfilled in unexpected ways. Around them, the Force flows in patterns that haven't existed for thousands of years, harmonious and balanced, containing both aspects in equal measure. The galaxy is still imperfect, still full of conflict and suffering and challenges, but it's better than it was. Better because someone finally demonstrated that light and dark aren't enemies, but partners, different aspects of the same eternal dance. Below them, a young student successfully completes a technique that blends Jedi serenity with Sith passion. The child's face glows with pride and accomplishment. Anakin and Nyx exchange a glance, no words needed. This is their legacy. Not perfection, but possibility. Not a final answer, but an ongoing question. Not balance achieved, but balance pursued, day after day, in the hearts and minds of those who choose to walk the middle path. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.